So in our last video, we looked briefly at debugging Odin programs, and there was a program I was referring to in the beginning of that video that I kind of didn't end up talking about. I couldn't get it to work at the time, and I fixed a Qt library issue that I had today. And so I figured I would show that program as well to sort of make people aware that it exists. It's called Seer GDB, and it's a front end on top of GDB, like so many other things. I would say the experience is not necessarily very different from something like VS Code, but in any case, I'm going to show it here so that people are aware of it, that it exists. If they like it, if they try it and they like it, that would be a good thing, right? So let's open our our executable. So you can see the command here is just Seer GDB. Actually, let me increase the font here a little bit. So we have Seer GDB and then our command. And so the executable name is going to be filled in here. And then we have symbol file names, working directory, and so on. We can pass arguments to our command here, and so on. GDB commands before run, GDB commands after run, and so on. There's a fair amount of stuff. We can set a breakpoint from the beginning if we want. We can break in main, quote unquote. This would probably be the C main, I suppose, or the like. And so here we know, for example, that we were interested in read configuration, I suppose, right? So we can actually type here, and there's no completion here, that's disappointing, right? Because that we would get that in GDB. So I would say this is actually slightly kind of worse in that respect, but yeah. So we have read configuration. We can, however, refer to it exactly like this, right? So here it's saying, hey, I reached temporary breakpoint 1. I use a tiling window manager. That's why it looks like this. In reality, what we have is this, right? So if I go back to a tiled setup here, but we're gonna just do main window because, yeah, there's not enough screen real estate otherwise. So probably here we can increase the font size, I would hope. Surely we should be able to increase the font size. Control. Okay, so for the source we can, like this. For the other stuff, I'll let you explore this yourselves, right? Because, you know, you're only gonna find out if this works for you by testing, right? And trying it out and so on. And there are features here that might be, you know, they might not exist anywhere else and so on. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say, you know, the best thing is to just try it out. Lord knows we don't really have all that many great, you know, debuggers anyway, right? So we should be in read configuration. We are indeed here, right? And here we have next step, finish, etc. Finish is, of course, finish the current function and tell me the result, and so on. So we can press F5 here. If I mouse over stuff, okay, that gives me nothing. Here we can enter a variable name to log. I suppose we could just say config here. If I press enter, we're gonna see here that this information shows up here. I can't do anything with this here. So I can't right click on it. If I double click, there's really nothing. Here's a, you know, tracker, variable name to track. So let's say file name, and so on. We could see that change over time. We have registers like this. All of this is, of course, available also in GDB. That's where it's getting all of this information from. It's just sort of managing everything for you, right? Locals, we can see that this looks fairly straightforward. Yeah. We have, honestly, it's the same information that we've seen before in reality, most of these, right? We can see arguments here, file name, interval, URL allocator. Yeah, looking reasonable. So if we have F5 here, we can do F6 to step in. We're not going to step in to read the entire file from FileNav yet. And then we have parse configuration, etc., etc. Oh, now it opened a new file because it followed it. So we had tabs here. I have to just make the make it larger. And now we panicked. We get this trap here, and presumably we should now be able to see the actual stack somewhere. Frames, yeah. So you can see the frames up here. You can follow them, you know, to see, hey, how did I get here, right? This is obviously instrumental in, you know, you're segfaulting and you want to see, hey, what actually happened, right? So if we run again, we can restart. Here, by the way, is output. So if you're using perhaps a different window manager, or you make this floating, for example, you might have this, oh, this pops up, this is standard out, and so on, right? And right, so we had a temporary breakpoint, important to note. Let's say we put a breakpoint. Okay, why is it? Oh, that's a bit of an odd one. Okay, you can make these conditional, these breakpoints, and so on. This is, of course, it's all built on GDB. You already have access to this. It's just hidden behind a bunch of commands and stuff, right? And extra commands. So if you do help breakpoint or help break in GDB, you will actually find a lot of ways to set breakpoints and so on. We want a breakpoint there. That's an odd graphic here. That's weird. If we run now, we should obviously hit this one. And we do F5, 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 F6, F5. And now we've ended up in the standard library in the parser file, F5, F6, F5, F5, F5. We're parsing a value. We're going to end up parsing an object here. Parse object body. And here actually is the out of memory error that I added in my, currently it's only my local Odin. There's a PR up for it. We'll see what happens with this. This is of course so we can actually capture out of memory errors in parse because we don't want to just sort of continue and return empty objects anymore. So that's it for Seer GDB. I just figured I'd make this as an addendum to the previous video. Try it out, see if you like it, and so on. I think it's useful to kind of see what different tools there are out there. Have a nice day and ciao.